Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. I'm your host, BJ Kubarulis. Alongside of me is Paul Frummelt and John Marcario, all of the Connection newspapers. For the fans of this show, you know you're about to get an action-packed show full of basketball. Who's getting into the regional tournament? We have all the answers, so just stay tuned. And you're going to hear from Marshall girls coach Noelle Klippenstein, who's going to be joining us in just a bit to talk about the first place team in the Liberty District girls. You'll hear about all the districts, who's won the regular season championships. We have all that information, including some swimming information, folks. We've got some kids headed to the state tournament. The Northern Region has been dominant in swimming for quite some time. And it's National Signing Day, guys. Don't sleep on the nation's top recruits coming out of the Northern Region. But before we get to all that, we want to thank the folks that make this show possible here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Of course, we're talking about our underwriters. CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257 for all your screen printing needs. Quality Care Ford Service Center, they service all makes and models. That's 703-383-6299. Well, guys, of course, it's basketball that drives this show. Everyone's tuning in to hear from the region's coaches and hear our game plan for shutting down some of the bigger regional contenders. John, you and I got a chance to see Lake Braddock and TC in the game of the week for the Fairfax Sports Network. I also saw South Lakes and Madison last night. We'll have reports for the folks at home on all those games. But before we get to that, Paul, you've got a swimming report for us.
The Northern Region swim meet was held over the weekend, and Concord teams dominating again. Fairfax girls took the first place with 278 points. Yorktown coming in second with 275, and Robinson in third with 267. On the boys' side, on their Concord team, Robinson won with 375.5 points. Second place, Oakton with 220 points, and Jefferson coming in third with 207.
Well, John, you got a chance to cover this region meet, and you got a chance to interview some of these local kids headed to the state tournament. Anyone make an impression on you?
The Fairfax girls, Elena Baumgartner and Emily Ferguson, they were truly excited when it was announced that they won. Their team was jumping up and down. They were told first. They could hardly contain themselves. They kind of had to grab the diving board a little bit. They're really excited. After each of the meets, I interviewed them both. They were surprised a little bit that they were able to win, but also just very grateful that they were able to pull it off. For the guys, Robinson's point total just does not truly show how dominating they were in that meet. Every single time there was a Robinson swimmer in the top three, it seemed like. Deja vu over and over again. Zach Holmes and Tim Wingert just truly dominated every aspect of that meet. I'm not trying to overplay a word. It's just that's the only possible explanation to have it.
And Paul, we're going to get to you in just a minute. Want to let the folks at home know that we've got a special photo from National Signing Day coming up for you folks at home to check out. A local signee headed to UVA. Stick with us for just a minute in this swimming report, and you'll get a chance to see who it was that signed with the local team. All right, Paul, talk a little bit about Suzanne Shui, though, from Stonebridge.
Yeah, Stonebridge, Suzanne Shui. The big story here going into the state tournament down in the state meet down in Virginia Beach is, can she get 2 state titles? Her freshman year, she won this title in 100 back. Last year, she won it in 100 fly. This year, she won both at the Northern Region. She won 100 back, 100 fly, and she's seeded first in the state meet. So this could be her year when she gets 2 state titles.
And for those of you that don't know, the Fairfax Sports Network was at the regional swimming tournament, and all of you swimmers at home, when you're at the state meet, they're going to be replaying that for us here at the Fairfax Sports Network. You can check your local listings at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. The entire region meet was filmed by the Fairfax Sports Network, including commentary, all the commentary from all of the swimmers and experts and sideline reports. Just a great job by the Fairfax Sports Network. So you'll get a chance to check that out coming up this Saturday. But check your local listings on the fairfaxsportsnetwork.com to see what time. We promised you a special photo of a signing here that happened in the Northern Region today. A lot of schools were out because of snow, but the signing day does not stop for anything, guys, National Signing Day. And a local player from a team that won a state championship 2 years ago signed with UVA. Of course, we're talking about Jared Green. We've got a photo of him that we want to throw up on the screen. This is courtesy of Oakton High School. Jared Green right there signs a scholarship with the University of Virginia. Of course, Principal John Barrenberry right to his back right, and Coach Joe Thompson in the jacket on the left. And for those of you Washington Redskins fans, you might remember Darryl Green right there next to Coach Joe Thompson, and the rest of the Green family right behind happy, smiling Jared Green, who's heading over to the University of Virginia to play for Coach Al Groh. He's also joining Keith Payne, a good friend of his, who's going to be playing for the Cavaliers. Most people believe he'll be the starting back next year. Jared going to be playing some at receiver. So we'll see how Jared develops. And congratulations to Jared and his family for making that step in the college football direction. We have a whole list of several people that have signed to play at the next level today. We'll have that later for you in the show, or you can check that out on our website at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com of all the local kids that are headed to the next level. Speaking of the next level, guys, the next level on our Connection Newspapers Elite 8 poll is this week. It's a new week, and we are about to unveil the Hoops Connection Newspapers Elite 8. Who are the top teams in the Northern region? And we have that for you right here. The girls, of course, is no secret. Edison with 32 votes. Previously, well, they've been a number one unanimously all season. Oakton right there in the number 2 spot with 28 votes, a unanimous number 2 throughout the entire season. And Marshall coach Noelle Klippenstein is going to be joining us in just a bit to talk about her team. They jumped up from the 4 spot. They've got a huge amount of votes at 23 votes. Lee with 20 votes. Previously, they were in 7th place, and they got there by beating West Springfield. John, that was a game you're going to get a chance to tell us all about. West Springfield tied for 5th with Westfield. Madison dropping down to 7th, but up from 8th. Madison has seen better days, but a core of juniors there. They'll be jumping back up, we think, next year. South County underachieving a little bit. We'll get a chance to talk a little bit about the woes over there. South County with 3 votes to round out the Elite 8 girls of the Connection Newspapers Northern Region poll. And guys, we've got the boys Connection Newspapers Elite 8 poll as well. We want to show the folks at home who our top boys teams are. Well, of course, T.C. Williams for the 2nd week in a row, guys. We're going to get a chance to tell you about the Connection Newspapers Elite 8 poll, which has T.C. right there with 32 votes. They were the Fairfax Sports Network's Game of the Week against number 8 Lake Braddock. Heck of a game. We're going to tell you all about that. Herndon right there at number 2, 27 votes. Edison with 25 votes. Westfield and Wakefield rounding out the middle of the poll, and Woodson and jumping over South Lakes. They were previously tied for 8th. South Lakes there with 8 votes, and Lake Braddock down at the bottom gave T.C. Williams some fits this past week. Want to take you right from the Elite 8, take you right into the Liberty District girls standings. The Liberty District is a district for girls, guys, that has just been hot as of recent, and Marshall coach Noelle Klippenstein is going to be joining us in just a bit to tell us all about her team, who's been performing quite well and who's been carrying that team. And we want to show you, though, how they've jumped right up to the top of the Liberty District in the Liberty District girls standings. They're at 13-5 in the district and 18-4 overall. Of course, right up on top of Madison at 11-2 and 17-4. Woodson at 7-5 and 10-10, just at 500 on the season. McLean 7-6, 11-10. McLean pushing to host a first-round game in the district tournament since God created basketball. Langley 5-7, 9-10. Stonebridge at 3-6. South Lakes 2-9 in the district, and Jefferson still winless in the district, but 2 wins overall. Madison, guys, has won 4 out of the last 5. They're a team that is, like I said, has a core of juniors. They're at Woodson on Friday, John. What will a Madison girls team have to do to get by a Woodson girls team?
I don't think it's going to be extremely that difficult to get by the Woodson team at this present moment in time. Woodson has back-to-back wins over South Lakes and Langley, 2 nice wins to get back on track after losing a couple in a row. It's just when I've seen them play against the upper echelon teams, the Marshalls, even against McLean, they go through these long droughts of scoring. They are in serious trouble if their starting point guard, Mia Nakaeras, gets in foul trouble because she's a senior. Then they go right back to a freshman, Melissa Gallo, and when Melissa's in the game, it's just the offense doesn't flow as much. Their center, Sarah Schoaf, she asserts herself early, but then she has a tendency to disappear here or there. So Woodson, they're kind of an enigma because they can compete with the teams, except they will go through, as I mentioned, these 4- and 5-minute droughts of 2-4 points at most.
And McLean is a team right now that is kind of battling with Woodson for that 3rd place spot. Those 2 teams kind of back and forth, and they're kind of looking at what each other is doing, but not really reliant on what each other is doing. Talked to Coach Mike O'Brien early in the week, and he said it's good that we control our own situation. You don't have to stress about what other people are doing. And like I mentioned earlier, the McLean girls, led by Ashley Cole and Jessica Stillman, are looking to host a first-round game at McLean High School in quite some time. That could really be big for the Highlander girls. And kudos to Mike O'Brien in his third year over there for getting that squad to where they are. Let's talk a little bit about Stonebridge, Paul. I know they're not doing so hot. They're kind of down towards the bottom of the district. But it's a team that could give some people some fits.
They're definitely a team that can win. They can upset some people, so that's definitely a thing to look out for. Right now, what they need, though, is momentum.
Right.
They need to win these last couple of games, and they need to go into the district tournament with momentum, because right now they're kind of stuck in that middle of the road. We're going to beat the teams that we should. We're going to lose the teams that we should. So if they get the momentum, they can make a difference.
Speaking of momentum and difference makers, we have a graphic that we want to show you about Marshall's leaders, who has been leading the Statesmen up to the top of the district. Kind of a dark horse. They lost Amanda Brown after last year, a player that was the leading scorer in the history of that school. And here are the pertinent stats for each player. Nicole Harrison has stepped into that role, as Noelle Klippenstein is going to be joining us in just about a minute here. She's going to tell us all about Nicole Harrison and what Nicole has meant to the program. But you can see right there statistically 16.3 points a game and 2.7 assists. She's also averaging 5.2 steals a game. Maya Al-Shingeti not far behind with 11.8 points a game. She's a Division I athlete going into the University of New Jersey Tech. 8.2 rebounds and 1.6 assists. She's a 6'2" forward, as is KT Message. KT Message is also 6'2". So they have two 6'2" forwards, but actually if you look down at the bottom there, Allie Johnson with 5.7 points a game, she's also 6'2". So
wow.
3 6'2" players that can score like these girls are scoring and playing off of each other in the paint. You also see 4.7 rebounds for Allie Johnson, kind of a player that's come out of nowhere. And speaking of players that have come out of nowhere, Angela Asta with 4.5 points a game and 1.6 assists, and Laura Birch, 5.7 points and 1.4 assists. I talked to Marshall coach Noelle Klippenstein earlier in the season, and she said one of the strengths that we have is we don't have a big name player. You know Jasmine and you know Dorina, two girls that have big names. You know them by their first name. That's how good they are. They don't have a person that you can just say their first name and someone knows them. So they feel that teams maybe sleep on them a little bit, which is a good thing. But I'll tell you, it's not the reason they are where they are. The reason they are where they are is because of balanced play and good coaching. We're looking for Coach Noelle Klippenstein. We're going to have her with us in just a minute, guys. She's going to tell us all about these players and what they mean to the program. But I believe this could be a dark horse in the Northern Region tournament.
You call them a dark horse, though. For people that like me that have seen them actually physically play, they are not a dark horse whatsoever. They're going to have the size, like you mentioned, with the 3 players, over 6'2". Nicole Harrison, when she needs to, just completely takes over a basketball game. She's their one superstar. She's evolved into the superstar. She disperses to the big men, or the big women. That's why they're able to get the shots. It's a overall well-rounded team. Harrison is the star. The 3 bigs, they are a very good basketball team and can cause some serious trouble in the district and regional tournament. No dark horse there.
So, Paul, do you think that there's any other team in the region that has the size to put up with 3 6'2" girls?
I'm not sure. I believe when you put someone like maybe Westfield in there,
right.
They have with Amanda O'Neill and Josephine McLean, not as tall, but just as physical. They know how to box out. They know how to get those rebounds. But right now, I'm not sure anybody can compete down in the paint with Marshall.
And speaking of Marshall, we have Coach Noelle Klippenstein joining us here. Coach, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We just put up a graphic that showed all your girls and some of the statistics that they've led the team in this year. And looking at that graphic and looking at Nicole Harrison with 16.3 points a game, she's a girl that's kind of the obvious leader there. Tell us a little bit about Nicole and what she's been able to do this year.
Nicole's been a great leader for us. She's a ball handler and team captain. She's evolved as a person that executes the offense really well and ends out getting a lot of her points off defense and transition.
We talked earlier in the season about replacing Amanda Brown. For those of us that don't know at home, Amanda Brown was a player that left as Marshall's all-time leading scorer. Nicole has just kind of stepped into that role and really, I guess, taken over where Amanda left off. How difficult is that for a player to do, to replace what could be considered a legend at that school?
Well, we thought that it might be very challenging for Nicole. just because she's been a 2 guard for us for 3 years, and with Amanda leaving, Nicole has just slid right into the position. She's a natural point guard, and that's where she's being recruited by college coaches. So it's worked out really well for us.
Noelle, this is John Marcario from The Connection. We spoke a little bit after you beat Woodson, and I asked you an abbreviated question of this, but I'm going to ask you again. Because of your big players, do you go into a game trying to establish run first with Nicole and then go with the bigs, or do you try to establish the bigs first and then just run teams out of the gym?
We like to establish bigs first and then let Nicole try and figure out the rhythm of the game and control the tempo as much as she can. But really, with each of the teams that we've played in our district, we get a different look. So I would like to say that we have the control to make that kind of decision, but we don't really. We just go out and play basketball.
Coach, coming in, we know we're right there at the district tournament. Where do you see your team's mindset? Do you see that you have momentum on your side going into the tournament?
Yeah, this has been a really good month for us. We were struggling a little bit in December trying to, get our roles and get everybody on the starting lineup confident. And that confidence has been building into some really nice momentum. We like to talk about Maya Alshingeti being like a freight train. And the more momentum you build, the stronger she seems to get in that second half. That going into the district has been, it was really good for us last year. And it's great to have that experience from last year so that the kids know or can anticipate better what to expect from the district and the regional tournament.
And speaking of those upcoming tournaments, Coach, Maya actually played really well in the postseason last year. Some honors going into those tournaments. But do you feel like you guys could be the Marshall boys program of the boys tournament last year? Could you be that equivalent, kind of a dark horse that maybe some teams sleep on that could really cause some trouble later in the later rounds of the tournament?
Well, we hope that we can, achieve as well as we can, and to make a comparison to the boys' team, I don't think is really fair to either one. The boys pulled together some amazing stuff, and that was a great ride. I enjoyed going to all the games, but the girls have a different sort of setup right now. I mean, we're going into the tournament in first place, and so I think that people know where we stand. Whereas last year the boys really came on strong at the right time, and it was just awesome to see them achieve. The great thing about that experience is the girls went down to the state tournament, and so they have an idea of how this thing plays out all the way to the end. So they're interested in trying to make a run like that themselves.
Well, Coach, the Fairfax Sports Network will be there to watch you guys make that run. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report, and best of luck to you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye.
All right, guys, so you heard it there. I mean, if they can make the push at the right time, this is a team that I truly believe can cause some fits for some other region teams that maybe just, look, they're in first place in the district, so I guess to call them a dark horse on my part isn't the right word, but I just don't think people truly believe that little old Marshall can make that big of a difference, and I'm here to tell you that they're a regional contender this year.
And it definitely is a problem going into the district tournament as the first seed. You may think, first seed, that we're where we want to be, but they have a bullseye now, and with people, like you said, maybe not thinking they deserve to be the top spot, maybe thinking, okay, we're better than them.
Right.
They're going to go out, other teams are going to go out to prove that,
Right.
so they have that bullseye on their head.
Well, speaking of bullseyes, for those of you that follow the Concord District, you'll know that there's a bullseye on Jasmine Thomas and the Oakton Cougars. Paul, why don't you tell us where the Oakton Cougars are sitting in their district standings?
Well, they may have the bullseye, but they haven't lost yet in the district. 11-0 overall in the district, 20-1 overall. Westfield right there at 9-2, the 2 losses coming to Oakton, 16-5 overall. Centerville still surprising at 6-4, 13-5 overall. Coach Wally Horton has done a great job with that program. Chantilly, though, a little disappointing, 4-6, but 11-8 overall, still a strong team. Robinson at 4-7, 10-9 overall. Herndon 3-9, 6-13 overall. Fairfax 0-10 in the district, but 2-17 overall. As you can see right there, there's 4 teams from the Concord district with records above 500.
And they say it's the toughest district for a reason in football, and you can see right there in basketball, girls at least, it's not much different, and that's because of the depth and talent. And speaking of depth and talent, we have a girl from Oakton that most of you who watch this show know is currently climbing up the ladder. Want to show you where she sits this week. We're going to try to follow this as much as we can from week to week. Paul, you were at the Chantilly game to watch Jasmine leapfrog 2 people.
Definitely, and she did it with such style both times when she passed. Passed Jason Lansdowne from Broad Run, who graduated in 92, with a 3-point shot about 3 steps away from the line. Just a gorgeous arc swish all the way. And then she went ahead and passed Chris Moreland from Mount Vernon, who graduated in 84, with another 3-point play, going up to a layup, made the bucket, got fouled, hit the extra point. So definitely 2 great ways to jump ahead of other people. Still has Kenny Hunt with 2,368 points. Steve Marcy, and there she is. Katie Smirka-Duffy's above her. Odell Hodge, Stacy Irvin, and Lakeisha Frett from Phoebus, graduated in 93, still sitting on top.
And looking at that list, though, you'll see that Jasmine is just exactly 100 points shy of Katie Smirka-Duffy. And this is boys and girls in career scoring for the state, guys. She's right now in 3rd for girls. So if she were to jump Katie Smirka-Duffy by the end of her career, she would finish as the Northern Region's top scorer of all time. Speaking of scorers, Paul, there's some girls at Westfield High School that can score. And do you think they get enough credit?
I don't believe they do get enough credit. Look, they're 9-2 in the district, 16-5 overall, and in our connection poll, they've been tied for 5th for a while. The only 2 losses that they've had in district was to Jasmine Tomlin and her Oakton Cougars, and a lot of those other losses overall were from out-of-state teams from New York. They traveled up there with the Westfield boys. I think that they are a team to be reckoned with in the Northern Region. I know you say you got Dorena, you got Jasmine, but I mean you got to put in there Josie McLean, you got to put in there Rachel Dahl. I think and Amanda O'Neill, you put those 3 together, and they are a team that could definitely make some noise. And I think that they're just not getting enough credit right now, and I bet they're going to go out and they're going to earn their credit starting with the district tournament.
Well, you don't want to underestimate Coach Pat Deegan over at Westfield. He's been around for quite some time and coached Katie Smirka-Duffy, who is sitting on the top of the Northern Region's all-time scoring list. Speaking of coaching, and you seem to think that Coach Wally Horton over at Centerville is doing a heck of a job, Paul.
Definitely doing a heck of that. We talked about 13-5 overall, and a good thing for Coach Horton is he actually swept against Chantilly, the team he came from.
Wow.
Swept the season series, got 2 wins against Chantilly, a close one on Tuesday. So congratulations to him, and he's starting up a great program over at Centerville.
Oakton blows out Chantilly, and you seem to think that may have led to a letdown later in the season.
Going off when Chantilly lost by 29 points, that's when Jasmine just went off for 29 points and had herself a triple-double, her 4th of her career. And I think that kind of hurt the Chantilly morale. That kind of sent them downwards, and when they meet up against Centerville, I think that's what happened. I think morale is down right now for Chantilly, and they're still a good team. So, and if they can get that morale up going into the district tournament, that there could be something there.
Well, a team that may not have a whole lot of morale right now is Herndon, because they've been hurt right now. I mean, they're not physically injured, but they're just not winning games. But I'm telling you, they're graduating only 3 seniors, and they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. They have an outstanding freshman in Phyllis Martin. John, tell us about Robinson.
Robinson, you did a nice little feature. You can tell us a little bit about Caitlin Prifus and Caitlin Henry. They're a team that if they're going to gel together, those 2 have to mesh. And if they're going to make any kind of noise in the districts, those 2 have to mesh. They both can combine for close to 30 points in a game if they want to. It's just a matter of that cohesion.
And speaking of cohesion, I got a chance to talk with Caitlin Henry and Caitlin Prifus. And the story there is that Caitlin Henry was the sole offensive leader of that team for the last 2 years. And Prifus, just a sophomore, kind of burst out onto the scene late last year, early this year, and they butt heads a little bit, but they've gotten past that. They now respect each other, and they see how much the other means to the other and to the team. Caitlin Henry scored her career high against Herndon, 28 points Henry had last Thursday, and she only had 3 of those points when Prifus was on the bench. So they need each other. She had 15 points in the third quarter when Prifus came back in, because Priftis got injured for a little bit, came back in. You can see they play off each other, and they need each other. And I believe that Robinson is a team that can cause people fits in the Concord District Tournament, in the Northern Region Tournament. I would watch out for Coach TJ Dade over there, scheming them up with the best of them. All right, John's talking about scheming them up. Let's talk a little bit about the scheme in the Concord District for boys. What's the scheme with the standings?
Standings, here we go. Herndon sits atop. They are 11-0, 17-2 overall. They are the Concord District regular season champs. There's a battle for everything else. Westfield is second. They are 9-2 in district play, 15-5 overall. Chantilly sits third at 8-4 in district play, 12-9 overall. Robinson smack dab in the middle, 6-6 even, 10-10 overall. Then there's Oakton at 4-6 in the district play, 9-11 overall, and Fairfax and Centerville are 1-10 and 1-11 respectively.
Speaking of respectively, Paul, these two teams, I don't know how much respect there is for each other, Centerville and Chantilly, because when they get together, no matter who's where in the district standings and no matter who's good or who's bad that year, it's always a dogfight. You got a chance to see that dogfight.
I did get a chance to see that dogfight, and we've talked about this a little bit on the show, where Centerville's a good team.
Yeah.
I respect Centerville, but anytime I go out to see them, they play horribly.
Right.
They play uninspired, and Coach Brown just doesn't know what to do. Well, when I saw Centerville take on Chantilly, I saw an inspired team. I saw a team that could beat anybody in the Concord District. That's right, anybody in the Concord District. The way they played. They had Quantrell Simmons, the big senior post, who was just leading that team. 9 points in the fourth quarter alone. They were up by as much as 6 with 1 minute left over Chantilly in the fourth quarter. But, you know, Chantilly's still a great team, too. Right. They come back they hit 4 foul shots in about 20 seconds to come within 2. They get the ball back, down by 2. Austin Decker, that we've talked about him quite a bit, he has the ball. He knows exactly who to go to. Hits Ben Wheeler right outside the perimeter. Wheeler drains a 3-point shot to give Chantilly the 1-point lead and eventually the win. I talked to Decker afterwards and I said, you know, who else would you want to have the ball in that situation but Ben Wheeler? He goes, nobody. That's why I passed it to him. And the surprising thing about Wheeler, though, is he was very cold from the 3-point line during the game. He was missing quite a bit, but he told me after the game that he had the confidence. He knew if he was open, he's taking that shot, and that shows a good player that has confidence in himself. Talked to Coach Brian Doyle afterwards, and he said, you know, they're 1-11 now in the district, but a game like that shows they can do it. And he said coaches that are in this situation with teams that are struggling, they're worried that they're just going to quit. And Coach Doyle said he sees no quit in his team. And they had a lengthy talk in the locker room. No quit in the team. They still have that morale. And the way they played, don't sleep on Centerville in the district tournament.
Well, speaking of two teams that never sleep on each other, we're talking about Westfield and Herndon, and a bit of a news coming out of Westfield last night. Paul, what happened to the big star over at Westfield last night? Big
Mo Hubbard just seems to have a problem with Herndon. Not a problem like he doesn't like them, just a problem in the games. In the third quarter, a scrum for a rebound. Mo Hubbard got the ball and swang, hit a Herndon player in the head.
I believe it was Chris Strahazel.
Hit him in the head, and the foul was called. And then after a 5-minute talk with the refs in the middle of the court, during which time Hubbard went over and apologized, said he was sorry. It's not something he meant to do. They decided to eject Hubbard from the game. I guess they thought that the elbow to the head, it was a tough foul, but they thought there was something that he meant to do, and he was mad. Obviously, if anybody knows Maurice Hubbard, that's not the case.
Right.
But anyways, besides the point, he was ejected, which led to an 11-point Herndon win over Westfield, and that always kills because Westfield second in the district, cannot seem to get over that Herndon hump.
And let's show the folks at home what we mean about that Herndon hump. If they need a win against Herndon. And Westfield, like you said, can't seem to get over that hump. And maybe over the last couple of seasons, we can see they need Mo Hubbard. And the last 2 games, you can see what happened to Mo Hubbard. Paul, January 12th, it was a 57-39 win for Herndon, as most of all of these have been, as you can see over the last 3 seasons. We have Hubbard's output offensively on the right there. He had only 9 points, and he fouled out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you could see there where you say, okay, well, he didn't play the full game against Herndon this year, but 9 points in the fourth quarter is not Maurice Hubbard's style of basketball. You can see down in December 28th of 2004, 28 points. That's Mo Hubbard basketball. 9 points in the fourth quarter is not. 6 points in the third quarter. It seems like Herndon just has a way to stop Mo Hubbard.
Yeah, and this is not a knock against
No,
Mo Hubbard.
definitely.
This is
one of the best players in the region.
Right, and you can see that. I mean, he blows up as a freshman on December 28th against Herndon for 28 points. He had 20 on January 13th during his sophomore year. And granted, he's only a junior, but this is more to show the folks at home the defensive tenacity of Herndon and what they're able to do to some of the stars of the northern region. Mo Hubbard is averaging about 18 points a game this season, but it just seems like Herndon, as of late, seems to know a way to rattle him. And I believe the Fairfax Sports Network was at the first matchup between Herndon and Westfield, and he could not get a call from the officials. And I wonder if that had any play in this past game. I don't think, and I wasn't there to see the foul, but just knowing the kind of player that Mo is, you wouldn't think he'd be the kind of guy that would throw an elbow like that.
He's the kind of guy that would go over and apologize. I'm sure he genuinely felt bad. But, you know, it gets tough down there in the paint when you're trying to get a rebound in a close rivalry game.
Yeah.
He was playing, you know, as hard as he can, and an accident happened pretty much. But you can see that without Maurice Hubbard, Westfield was actually down by one, then up by one during that time. With Maurice out, it's really hard for the Bulldogs to overcome the Hornets.
All right, guys. John Robinson, the 4th seed right now. Do they have a slim chance to get into that third seed?
If it's slim, it's about, that's slim. They're going to need a lot of help. They're going to need a lot of tiebreaker help. I don't see it happening. That would make them the 4th seed. It means they wouldn't have reached their goal at the beginning of the season, which was to get the 3 seed. Still a great year for them, though. Vastly exceeded anybody's expectations. I mean, that's a program that had 5-6 total wins the past 2 years. They're looking at double digits this year. If they can get that first round win, probably they'd play Oakton, who they've had some success against, then they'd play against Herndon. And they would have to play the game of their life.
Well, speaking of a team that's most likely going to play against Herndon or one of those big dogs later in the regional tournament, we're talking about the T.C. Williams boys team. John, let's jump right into those Patriot District boys standings and talk a little bit about those Titans.
T.C. Williams sits atop. They are 13-0 in the district, 17-3 overall. They are your Patriot District regular season champions. Lake Braddock is second. They are 10-3 in district play, 15-6 overall. West Springfield is third, 7-3 in district play, 14-4 overall. West Potomac is fourth, 5-7 in district play, 9-10 overall. South County, let's talk a little bit about them, kind of an enigma. They are 5-8 in district play, 9-11 overall. Hayfield is 3-9 in district play, 6-14 overall. Annandale and Lee are both tied at the bottom. They are 3-10 in district play, but Lee had a nice win against South County this week.
Speaking of nice wins, John, T.C. Williams had one of the ugliest wins I've ever seen over a team. We were there, the Fairfax Sports Network's Game of the Week, T.C. Williams versus Lake Braddock at the Bruins' home. We both got a chance to call that game, and what we saw out of Coach Brian Metris was a heck of a chess match.
He had an excellent game plan, which was just to have 3 men near midcourt and pass the ball and take a minute, 2 minutes off the clock every single possession, because you're not going to beat TC running, especially not without Dominique Moore, who's still out with that high ankle sprain. They were within 4 to 5 the whole game. It seemed like TC was comfortably ahead, but Braddock would make comebacks here and there. They got within 2. They could never make that big shot. They'd have a critical turnover here or there. They'd have TC who's very athletic. They would either get a key rebound and a putback, a 3-point play, a jumper. They were always comfortably ahead by 5, if that makes sense.
And what that game plan was meant to do was to pull Mike Davis, a tremendous shot blocker that had, depending on who you believe, between 11 and 15 blocks. Yes, you heard that correctly. 11 and 15 blocks, somewhere in that range, against Lake Braddock last time these two teams met. They pulled him out a little bit, and they were kind of hitting the back door a little bit and getting some nice cuts to the basket. Ian Asanugo had a heck of a game, and Greg Delaney on senior night in front of his home crowd just had an incredible showing, hitting threes late in the game. Really got to give it up for Greg Delaney. And you wonder now if Coach Brian Metris' game plan, which is to spread the floor and slow it down, almost like a gimmick offense like Marshall used last year to make it all the way into the state semifinals, if more people are going to start doing that against a T.C. Williams team that is just loaded with talent. Speaking of being loaded with talent, Mike Davis came over from Hayfield to really bolster that team. And I talked to Coach Ivan Thomas about that about the transfer and kind of how things went down, and if he heard the rumblings in the region, kind of when there are these big transfers, people start to chatter about, was it done the right way, and is there something more there? Did he go there just for championships? And when you talk to Mike Davis, he'll tell you, I came here to win a state championship. But there's more there, and he just, as an athlete, believes that those are the things he should be talking about. There's some family issues there as to why he left Hayfield to go to T.C. Williams. I got a chance to interview Mike about that after the Braddock game. If you want to read that story, you can go to connectionnewspapers.com and just click on our Alexandria Gazette packet and click on sports. You'll get a chance to read my interview with Mike and Coach Ivan Thomas all about his transfer and how that went down. We'll look for that team, which is currently sitting atop our Connection Newspapers Elite Eight. We'll look for them in the postseason. All right, let's talk a little bit about West Springfield, John. You seem to think they have a statement game against Davis and the Titans.
They play them tomorrow night, Thursday night, last game of the regular season. TC's already wrapped up the regular season. After their win this week, they have 38 consecutive wins against Northern District opponents, 30 of them against Patriot District opponents. West Springfield, I talk about it every week, has that gaudy record, 1-3 versus teams with a winning record. TC almost doesn't have anything to play for in this game, and they've wrapped up the top seed. Yeah, that streak is nice, but they're looking at wins in the district tournament, the regional tournament. I don't think they could really care less about that streak, a streak which their coach doesn't even want to talk about. Whereas West Springfield, they need that win for sheer confidence alone. They're going to end up either playing Lake Braddock or TC, either in the semifinals or the finals of the Patriot District Tournament. They need to beat one of those two teams going in, knowing they can beat them. Otherwise, their season's going to be done, and their players are going to be sitting there at the end of it going, we had 17 wins. We only lost 6 games. We should still be playing basketball.
Speaking of teams that look like they might be playing basketball deep into the postseason, let's jump into the girls' Patriot District standings and tell you all about a historic win for the Lancers.
Well, sitting in first place in the Patriot, they are your Lee Lancers, 11-2 in district play, 15-2 overall. Huge win against West Springfield last week. West Springfield is also tied for first. They are 11-2 in district play, 15-4 overall. South County sits third. They are 9-4 in district play, 14-7 overall. TC, Annandale, Hayfield, Lake Braddock, and West Potomac wrap up your Patriot District.
John, a historic win for Lee. Why was it so important?
Lee has they lost a couple games in a row. They needed that win against West Springfield to validate that, hey, we are really here. They beat Marshall earlier in the year. Now they have this nice win against West Springfield. I spoke with their head coach, Rudy Cofield. He just said their players early on in the season knew that they were a good team. He said they'd rather them lose in the middle of the year than lose at the end of the year. He said since that West Springfield game, which was 2 games ago, his kids have been extremely confident in both themselves, in huddles during timeouts when they're down. They're really more jazzed up. He says that just they're taking it one game at a time, and this team, he believes, could be a real force in the regional tournament.
In just about a minute, folks, we're going to jump into the National District for girls, and we want to get a chance to show you what a special player from Edison is doing currently for the girls basketball team. We showed you the Jasmine Thomas accomplishment early in our show, and we're going to get a chance to show you a little bit about another player from the region who is known by her first name, as we mentioned earlier. We're going to tell you a little bit about her recent accomplishment. But before we get there, John, let's talk a little bit about the South County girls. Are they underachieving a little bit? It was weird. We started off the season thinking they were a contender. Then we ate our words. Then we had to eat our words again when they came back and won. I think it was 10 out of 11 or something. And now they're kind of tanking again. What's going on over at South County?
Before I say this, Jason Grubb is an excellent coach. Their players that they have on their team are very nice players, and they're very good players. They had that long winning streak, 14 of 15. Problem was, most of those games were against sub-500 to below 500 teams. They're on a now 2-game slide where they lost by 19 points and 18 points to West Springfield and Lee, the 2 top teams. That is devastating for a team this time of the year, knowing you're going to have to play either one of them to make it to the district championship game to continue playing on. That team just, I don't know their mindset right now after that long winning streak and then these 2 back-to-back losses, big losses against good teams.
Watch out for the T.C. Williams girls and Tierra Ruffin-Pratt. She's back and playing excellent. They're going to be a dark horse in the Northern Region Tournament. Teams that are not dark horses, that are some contenders for the boys in the National District. Want to get a chance to show you some of those teams. They're sitting right up at the top of their districts in their standings. Edison at 10-1 in their district and 18-3 overall. Wakefield and Mount Vernon with 8 wins in district apiece. Yorktown, W&L, Stewart, and Falls Church round out the bottom of the National District standings, but it's really those top teams. Edison has clinched the regular season title. And Wakefield has a player in George Johnson that's averaging 17.4 points a game. He really is the story, I believe, of the Wakefield Warriors and that district. Edison's really doing it more by a team. Wakefield, they'll tell you it's a team effort as it is, but George Johnson really carrying the load there with 17.5 points a game. Look out for a Mount Vernon. I think they're a scary team that's right up in there, the top half of that district. They're making a late push behind Markel Delancey, 14 points a game, and some other players there that can ball. And speaking of balling, John, we're going to get a chance to talk about the girl from the National District that we mentioned earlier. But before we do that, let's show the folks at home where these girls sit in their National District standings.
Your National District standings, Edison's at the top. They are 11-0 in district play, 21 overall. Yorktown is second, 9-2 in district play, 15-6 overall. Quick note to show you how dominating Edison is. They recently beat Yorktown by 40 points.
Wow.
Mount Vernon is third. They are 7-4 in district play, 11-9 overall. Then there's Wakefield, 6-5 in district play, 10-11 overall. Falls Church, 4-6 in district play, 9-11 overall. And Stewart and Washington and Lee round out your bottom two.
All right, John. So you said that first place Edison in that district, blew out the second place team by 40 points. I think that shows their dominance in that district. You got a chance to talk to a player that has helped make that team so dominant. Before we talk about what you talked about with Darina Campbell, let's show the folks at home what Darina Campbell recently accomplished. And I think by the time all is said and done, people will look at her as one of the most complete players in the history of the Northern region.
You talk to Darina Campbell, you see the point total, 2001, gaudy number. She wants to talk about the assist, the 512 assists. She says that means more to her than the points because it shows that her teammates are helping her out. It shows that people are double teaming her. She's recognizing the double teams, so she's kicking it to an open teammate. She is very proud of that number, the 2,000 points, 700 plus rebounds, 500 assists, rare achievement in women's basketball. Darina is a very, very humble girl. She said that during her first game as a freshman, she picked up 3 offensive charges.
Wow.
She was very apprehensive, scared to shoot the ball, scared to know what to do. Imagine that, Darina Campbell not knowing what to do.
Right.
She has learned so much from that. She said she's looking forward to playing in the district and regional tournament because the competition might be a little better. They won a game last night by 70 points against Falls Church. She's just overall a very humble girl, but she's very humble, and she'll drop 30 on you with a smile.
And speaking of smiling, she has something to smile about, Paul. I don't know if you saw the bottom of that graphic, but 102 games consecutively where she has scored in double figures.
That just shows she's not a player that has peaks and volleys. She is a consistent, dominating player. And even that, you see the points, but you see the assists, you see the steals. She is a complete player, and that's definitely the reason why she's a Division I recruit.
And you also saw the record 94-8 with Darina Campbell in the lead there for Edison, and 102 games consecutive. I think you do the math there, 94-8 actually, in every one of the games she's played in her career. That's 102 games with a 94-8 record. She has scored in double figures. I think that tells you what kind of a caliber of player they have over there at Edison, and a lot of people believe that that's a team that could vie for a state title. Oakton and some other teams are going to have a lot to say about that before all is said and done. So I think a lot of people are looking for that Jasmine and Darina matchup in the region final, and it could play out that way. The good news for both teams is, and I know I'm getting very much ahead of myself though, both of those teams would advance if they were to play each other in the region final. So that would be, I think, one of the most that would be one of the biggest matchups this region has ever seen in girls basketball. Let's move into boys basketball in the Liberty District and talk some news about a coach in Wendell Bird who coached what could have been his final home game last night. We'll tell you why that's a little bit of a white lie. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the Liberty District boys standings, Paul.
Well, the often debated Liberty District, you want to kill 10 minutes, ask BJ or John who's going to win the Liberty District. There's definitely different views there. But right now, Woodson is at the top of the district with 11-2 district record and 13-6 overall. South Lake's right behind him, 10-3, 14-6 overall. Langley's in there too, 8-5, 14-7 overall. Madison 8-5, 11-10 overall. Those top 4 teams are going to beat each other up. Stonebridge 7-6 overall, 7-6 in the district, 12-8 overall. McLean 6-7, 12-9, kind of a dark horse there. Marshall 2-11 in the district, 6-5, 15 overall. In Jefferson, playing in the Liberty District must be tough. No wins. Well, obviously, you see the quality, the caliber of teams. Jefferson no wins in the district, but 1 win overall.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Madison and South Lakes matchup last night. The Fairfax Sports Network went out and filmed Wendell Bird's potential last home game at South Lakes High School. Now, that's a bit of it's a last regular season home game because, of course, we all know that they're at the top of the district. They'll host a first round, and they also do the finals at South Lakes in the Liberty District Tournament. So Wendell will coach at South Lakes again, but that was his final regular season home game. They presented him with just a size 22 pair of shoes because he's been there for 22 years. They all signed him. They all signed to basketball. They went back and found photos from over the last 22 years of his coaching and made a big mural of them. Irv Green, assistant coach over there, was shedding a tear. I saw you, Irv. I saw you crying a little bit. He's been with them for 15 years, and that's a program where all their coaches have just been such a family. But after all that was said and done, Madison fell asleep a little bit because it was such a long ceremony. South Lakes came out and blew Madison away on a 14-0 run. This is why I believe that South Lakes, they always come together at the right time. They always come together right before the district tournament. You saw them climb from the middle of the pack. They're now right in second place. Woodson potentially wins the district regular season title, but South Lakes, I believe, will win the district tournament. And let me show you why. I'm going to statistically, unlike my counterpart, John Marcario, I'm going to statistically back up what I'm saying. Let's throw up a graphic about what Coach Wendell Bird has been able to do in his career. You look right at that number there, John, right underneath all those region titles.
Yeah.
If you look at that number underneath all the region titles, and let me read those years to you. 1989, 1992, 1993, 94, 99, and 2003. Now, see, John, those were all the years that they won the region title. And above that, you see his record at 439 and 150. But see, underneath all that would be the number of district titles. Now, see, district titles mean tournament titles. That would be 12. State runners-up twice. Now, statistically, I've backed up why I believe South Lakes will win the Liberty District Tournament. What's your reason?
Here's my reason. The numbers, throw them out the window.
Ooh, props.
This
He has
Woodson
props.
team-
We have numbers and he has props.
I think he wins. You win. No, you win.
They have won 7 of 8. They went to Langley last
Who is
night.
they?
Woodson.
Okay.
Sorry. Woodson. The Cavaliers, the team that will win the Liberty. They've won 7 of 8. They went to Langley yesterday. Beat them by 3. 7 of 8. Their lone loss was to McLean, and I call that a tweener loss just because they played Thomas Jefferson before, had a couple of soft games afterwards, looking a little bit ahead to South Lakes. That Woodson team will get it done. Here's my guarantee for you. I'm not going to guarantee that they will win the district with this, but I guarantee they will make it to the regional tournament.
Oh, well, don't go out on any limbs here. I mean, the first seeded team in the Liberty District Tournament advances to the Northern Region Tournament. I mean, that's, whew, don't go out on a limb here.
If they don't, I'll shave the head on TV.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Just a couple of weeks ago on the last show, you heard me personally apologize to Edison Eagles fans. It's still up on the website if you want to read my personal apology. You heard it here first. John Marcario, one of the sports editors of the Connection newspapers, promises that if the Woodson Cavaliers, now that's a lot of pressure on you, Silverthorne and Wilmot and Lennox and Coach Doug Craig.
You hear that, Woodson?
If you
He has a
guys,
beautiful mane.
Yeah, that is one beautiful mane. You're right, Paul.
Caesar-esque.
If Woodson does not advance to the Northern Region Tournament, John Marcario will shave his head here on this show, and I will make the first cut on that head on a no guard, by the way. No guard, John. We're upping it. We're taking it up another notch. Now, to counter that bet, what I'll do is I will do absolutely nothing. I will let John go out on that limb all by himself because no one wants to touch this beautiful haircut that I get. All right, folks. Want to work our way deeper into the Liberty District, and I want to talk about a special player in McLean's Tarek Amori. Amori had 24 points last night and 10 rebounds. Don't forget about his rebounds. He's an incredible rebounder. He's only a junior, and he's now surpassed Ron Payne, who was McLean's all-time leading scorer. Tarek now has 805 career points, and he's only a junior, and he's going to continue to add to that. I believe he's going to run away with the career scoring title at McLean that will never be touched. Speaking of the McLean area, though, there's another team with another player that can seem to drop them at any point. We're talking about Ryan Davenport over at Langley. That's a team that's climbing and building momentum. They suffered a loss last night to Woodson, but that's the first seeded team. But they're going to get a chance to host a first-round tournament game for the first time in Travis Hess's young career at Langley, and he could secure a winning season for the first time in his career at Langley, which has been the last 2 years. Let's show the folks at home before we get going what we at the Connection newspapers believe to be the Elite Eight teams in the Northern region.
All right, starting up, once again, for the girls, Edison, 32 votes, been number 1 the whole time. Oaks right behind them there with 28 votes, number 2 the entire time. Marshall moving up from 4th to 3rd with 13 votes overall. Lee also making a jump. They have 20 votes. They were previously in 7th place. West Springfield and Westfield both tied at 5th. Again, I believe Westfield is a dark horse in the region and might not be getting the credit they deserve. Madison in number 7th with 8 votes. Previously, they were in 8th place. South County dropping with those 2 losses to 8th place, still in the top 8. Previously, they were tied for 5th with Westfield.
How about the boys, Paul? What are the boys of the Northern region doing? We mentioned T.C. Williams is a team that we think could help break that 26-year drought for state titles in the Northern region.
They are definitely our great white hope. T.C. Williams, 32 overall. Previous week, they were in 1st place. Herndon, 27 overall. Previously in 2nd place. Edison, 25 votes. Previously, they were in 3rd. Westfield, 19 votes. They were previously tied for 5th. Wakefield, 15 votes, previously tied for 4th. Woodson, they were previously tied for 8th. They have 12 votes. South Lakes, 8 votes, tied for 5th. And Lake Braddock, 4 votes. Previously, they were in 7th place.
And for those fans of the Fairfax Sports Network that have been with this show for quite some time and have been with our Game of the Weeks for quite some time, you'll recognize this name. Lauren Trainer is a graduate of Westfield from not too long ago. She's back, and she's going to be helping the Fairfax Sports Network in an alumni spotlight. If you have someone who is an alumni that you think qualifies for this spotlight, and our qualifications aren't too deep, you can check the website later for details, but really all it is we're going to spotlight what some of our alumni have done from the Northern region, currently in college and performing or doing some sort of athletic achievement. You can email that in to info@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Again, that email is info@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Lauren is going to be doing a weekly segment on our show talking all about what these alumni have been doing. So if you have someone that you want to nominate for this alumni spotlight, please send that in to, again, info@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. All right, guys, before we get going here, we want to thank the folks that make this show possible and tell the folks at home where they can catch all of our programming here on the Fairfax Sports Network. Of course, we're going to be talking about swimming later in the broadcast. The swimmers are, we're going to be showing swimming later on Cox Channel 10, and you can go on Verizon, Cox, and Comcast On Demand to check all those shows out, very, very much on demand and available at all times. You can check our website to see when you can see all those. But before we get a chance to thank all those people, we want to get a chance to ask you two guys, we do this every show, has anything changed in your contender for the region title, John? Who do you think wins the Northern Region, boys and girls, as we get into the postseason right now?
Northern Region boys, TC. Hands down, TC. For girls, it's going to be Edison, and I don't think they're even going to have a game that's going to be within 10 to 15 points. But my one surprise, West Springfield will not make the regional tournament for girls.
Wow.
Oh.
Do we get to shave your back for that one or something? I mean, I don't think you're going to have much hair left by the time this thing's
No
all said and
shaving
done.
on that one.
Boy, you're just going out on a limb. Go ahead.
In the boys' side, I loved Westfield. If they can't get over that Herndon hump, I don't see them beating Herndon in the district tournament. I don't see them having a chance against TC in the region tournament. I like TC also. And again, I love Edison for the girls.
Yep. I think the best basketball in the Northern Region is being played at Edison High School. I think those two teams are teams that could potentially sweep the region titles. I know that Edison is a team that people have seen as kind of a dark horse. I don't want to rule TC out just yet, but I saw a flaw in the way that they played against Lake Braddock. Lake Braddock slowed it down against them, and TC, they didn't panic, but they did not respond in a way that a championship team responds to having the game slowed down on them. They responded like a bunch of stars that wanted to score the basketball. And sometimes you have to take a step back and you have to play smarter basketball. I think TC grew from that experience, but I think a more talented team that was to use Brian Metris's game plan could cause fits for TC Williams in the long run. And I think they've probably been practicing against some sort of offensive and defensive scheme like Mitras put in against them this past week. So with that said, I'm looking at maybe Edison to be able to pull that off. So could be a clean sweep for the Eagles. Oh, how far I've come from saying the Eagles couldn't beat Herndon to now both teams sweeping the region. Don't rule out Oakton on the girls' side. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and of course Jasmine Thomas leading the way for that team. All right, folks, we're going to get a chance to thank the folks that make this show possible, and you'll get a chance to check out our game of the week. We're going to be at Madison. Woodson will be playing Madison on Friday. Games are available on Cox Digital On Demand. You can check our website for details. And the FSN Game of the Week, Paul, when does it re-air?
It re-airs on February 10th, 2007. It is the Northern Region Swim Tournament. Runs Saturday at 4:30 and Monday at 3:30 on Cox and Comcast Channel 10.
Hey, we're on the web, John.
You can visit us at FSN or FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. Lots of lovely pictures and bios and fun stuff there.
Hey, CCI Screen Printing, that's one of our teammates here at the Fairfax Sports Network, 703-978-0257. And Quality Care Ford Service Center. They service all makes and models at 703-383-6299. Again, with our Alumni Spotlight, folks, want to remind you to send in your nominations to info@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You send that information in, and Lauren Trainer will be having that segment with us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. I think all the young boys from the region will be tuning in now, bringing a different market.
Yeah.
We know all the ladies tune in to see us.
Me.
You. Thanks for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report.